Welcome to Kidmin Backstage, the place where we talk about kids ministry and take a peek behind the scenes. We try to share a little bit of what we've learned that works for us and some of our failures so you can avoid them. We release a new episode every Friday, and this is your backstage pass to see the magic or disaster that happens behind the scenes of our kids ministry. I'm your host, Gabe Baker, and today I'm joined by Brother Kyle. How's it going?
Hey, it's going really well. Like I told you before we started, I'm feeling super full today from the meeting we had with Pastor yesterday and service last night. Just so much stuff that he gave us. It's
I think it was Brother Miles and I talked about, before you can minister to others or whatever, you have to have something inside. You have to be full. So here we go. We're ready to overflow.
I'm feeling it today.
We're ready to, what was the word he used? Regurgitate.
Lack of a better word. Right.
All right, well, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about the excellent Kidmin leader.
The excellent Kidmin
Emphasis
leader.
on excellent.
Yes, emphasis on excellent. So, excellence is not a destination.
No.
And I think that's almost self-defining because a lot of people... or many people treat it like it is a destination. Right. And so excellence really is, I think, in some ways, and there's so many ways you could define this, I guess, but excellence is defined by just that consistent, I think I wrote consistent choices. And it's in major things, like major initiatives, and it's in the minor things.
Right.
And it's in those small details. And then I wrote in ministry, our commitment to excellence is a direct reflection of our devotion to God when we're working in the church and in ministry.
Right. I actually had two verses that came to my mind. One is Colossians 3:17. It says, "Whatsoever you do in word or in deed, do it all in the name of the Lord."
Yes.
Jesus, giving thanks to God and the Father. So it's like everything we do, and I tell the kids this in chapel all the time, it's like, everything you do, you should do it as if you're doing it for God. It doesn't matter if you're doing like pace tests for the kids or we're doing this podcast or whatever you're doing. You're doing it with excellence because you want to display God's presence in your life to others, and you want to give Him glory in everything that you're doing. And it doesn't matter if it's big or small. And in fact, in Ecclesiastes 9 and 10, it says, "Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. For there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave, where they'll go." So everything we do in this life, it doesn't matter if it's big things or small things, we're going to give it everything we have and do it to the best of our abilities.
It's there's the example, I've used it before, but the example of the man who opens a door for a woman, and she's like women's rights or whatever, and she chews him out like for opening the door for her, and is like, "You open the door because I'm a woman, da-da-da-da," and he calmly stands there and waits for her to get done and says, "No, I opened the door for you because I'm a gentleman." And so it's not about, and I think this fits so well in kids ministry, because sometimes we can look at kids, and yes, if you're in kids ministry, you should have a love for kids.
Right.
But sometimes you can look at these kids and they're snot-nosed, they stink, and they can be mean, they can be rowdy and rambunctious. And it's at those times when you have to remember, it's not so much that, little Johnny that's pulling Susie's hair. It's not that I am doing it for him. I mean, we are to an extent.
Right.
And, I don't think I need to qualify everything I'm saying, but we are doing it for the kingdom of God. Yeah. That's what we're called to do, and that's why we're here, and so we're doing it as unto the Lord.
Right.
It's not about just, who we're doing it for.
Yeah, and in those moments, it's not that it's easy. I mean, you get those Sundays for whatever reason. I don't know if the parents give their kids Red Bull that morning or what is going on, but they are just tuned up on a whole nother level, and it becomes a little bit more difficult to deal with them. And then other Sundays, they're just like perfectly fine and things are totally normal. And it doesn't matter if it's those difficult moments or easy moments. We got to remember what we're doing, and it's all about the kingdom. It's all about God's glory. It's all about Him.
Yeah, and if somebody out there knows that pattern, please email us or something. Let us know. Let us know in the comments what's the pattern, what's the secret.
I'll take some bit of responsibility. So you're not out there, but I've had this new thing since I started helping out more outside. So I have the little concrete parts on those pillars we have so I stand up on top of there. And I get way above the kids. Oh, yeah. I'm already taller than them anyway, but I'm up there and I get fairly loud. And then I get them to get like as loud as they possibly can. So I'm like, how's everybody doing today? You guys ready to have a good time? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, that's not as loud as you can get. And I mean, I get to where it's like, it hurts my ears. And it's super.
So they can hear them in the sanctuary.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, for sure. And it's Brother Arter's fault. Got that from him because he would do that every once in a while, get them to be like super loud. And you could hear them in the sanctuary and stuff. And so I'm like,
that's awesome.
So I get them pretty pumped up. But then I think at the same time, it kind of gets them like a little bit overexcited. So
yeah,
I'll take some responsibility.
It's Kyle's fault. They come in rambunctious and ready to go. All right, well, our first point in the notes is extraordinary, if I can get that word right, extraordinary results are built on small tasks done with excellence. Yeah. And I think that so much, I wrote excellence in minor details demonstrates reliability, builds confidence in your leadership. I think that so much, I experience this in the workplace all the time, is that there's people that I remember working with a project manager one time. In fact, I was on a project. It was a high-rise, and it wasn't going well. Mm-hmm. There were a bunch of circumstances that just weren't going well, and they brought in a project manager. They essentially fired one or moved him to a different project, and they brought in for damage control, which is never ideal, right? Yeah. But they brought him in, and I remember being so impressed. He was just... he's wasn't a Christian or anything, but as far as in the workplace, he was a leader. He was solid, and he was just like on top of it in every facet. Like he was on point. He was inspiring. He was on task. I mean, when he came into the office, it was like he was rushing. I mean, it was just, he was on it. And over the course of time, and I had different conversations with him and stuff. In fact, I was working for him the first time I ever met the governor, because the governor came through our office right after our meeting. He had done a press conference, and he comes walking through, and we're like, that was the governor. But anyway, so he, what I found is that he did small things, but he did it very consistently. As simple as like morning routine stuff in his personal life. Like he got up really early. He was a swimmer, and he would swim every day. Right. So he did all these little things very consistently, and it wasn't, we talked so much about the spotlight moments and all of that, and so I don't want to rehash all that. But it wasn't so much like, oh, here he came and he cut the budget and bam, he saved the project. It was about all these little things that he did consistently over and over. Yeah,
in Luke 16:10 it says, "He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much, and he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much." So if you can't be trusted with those little things, God's never going to trust you with the big things. I was just thinking of a really cool saying. I don't know if this is actually a saying, but I was thinking if you can't be trusted in the minor notes, you're never going to hit the major notes. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. In those little details, in the military, we used to have a saying, it's attention to detail because the details will get you killed one day. And so those little things you would think would not be a big deal.
They seem like they don't matter.
But if you don't take the little things serious, you can never take the big things serious. Mm-hmm. If you ignore those little details and those little projects or those little situations, or if you're always looking to be like, I always want the big things because I want to be like well known, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but you're never going to be trusted with the major situations.
Yeah. Well, and you took my verse, but but that is true. And Pastor just mentioned this phrase the other night, and I think Elder Booker, Brother Larry Booker, preached a message called this, I think, too, but the big doors swing on small hinges. Mm-hmm. And that has so many context, that you could. It's a great phrase, but I think that these big things and big moments and big things that we might get accolades for, it really is a result of all these small things done well, compounded.
Yeah.
And so back to that verse about being faithful, I think that it's also, I'll take some liberty and say, being excellent.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I think that we might think of being faithful in the small things as being consistent, which it is, and that's true. But I also think like saying, okay, I have this small task to do. You want me to, what's another classic example? You want me to clean the toilets.
Be the best toilet cleaner possible.
I'm going to be the best. I'm going to do the best at it and do a great job. And so I think that's what part of what excellence is that you are, or faithfulness is, you are being not just consistently doing it day in and day out, but you are also doing a great job at it.
And I think too, like before God's going to ever give you that big opportunity, he's going to present to you these smaller opportunities just to see what you're going to do and how you're going to handle it. Are you going to treat it with with utmost respect and care? Like you said, cleaning the toilets, it's like most people are like, I'm just going to, whatever, it's a toilet, it's like not a big deal. But like, that's not the attitude we should have. We should, especially in the house of God. I mean, me personally, if I get asked to clean the toilets, I have the same attitude as if Brother Gabe asked me to come and help in Sunday school. I'm going to try to give it everything I got because it's the house of God. I have so much respect for God and for the church and things like that. I don't want to take it lightly no matter what the task is that I'm being asked to help out with.
Well, and let's go to number 2. Excellence is contagious.
Oh, yeah.
So, and we called this the excellent Kidmin leader, and I want to get into some other stuff, the reason why I kind of chose that title. But when we model excellence as a leader in everything that we do, we set a standard.
Yeah.
And we can inspire others, too, to be excellent. And so this podcast and this idea for this podcast comes almost directly, he doesn't know anything about it, but almost directly from our pastor, because that's what he does for so many of us. He inspires excellence. We talk about all the time, when he's sick, he preaches a powerful message. It's almost like he's like, okay, I'm going to push through this. And so he inspires that excellence, and it becomes contagious,
100%. He leads from the front. He leads by example. I feel bad for some churches that don't have that, where there's situations that happen. People come in. I think the hardest thing to overcome for somebody is church hurt, as they call it, where they've had a bad experience. And I feel bad because we are so blessed here. Like I will never ever question whether pastors living right outside of church, because I just know, I've been here long enough to know, like, there's never a doubt in my mind. He just lives with the utmost integrity, always handles situations so well, and it's like you said, it's contagious. And I wrote a note. It's like, think about the person you spend the most time with. What tends to happen? You tend to start acting like each other. They rub off on you. This is why the Bible talks about being careful who you spend a lot of time with. Being unequally, and so if you want to be excellent, if you want to have excellence in whatever ministry God's calling you to, you need to surround yourself with excellent people. Right. Surround yourself with people that are really good at whatever aspect you're trying to be better at as well, whether it be more knowledgeable in the Bible, whether it be better in Sunday school or music or whatever it is. Absolutely. Surround yourself with these people because they will rub off on you. That's just what happens. Well, and so in kids ministry, I think, with your pastor's blessing, being connected, like, there's I'll put a plug in for, it's Brother Philip Booker, basically kind of spearheads it. I think it's the SCC, their organization down there, but in Southern California, coming up in May. You can find it on apostolicsundaySchool.com, I'm sure, but there's a kids ministry workshop. Yeah. So things like that, and so some of us go there every year. Some of us go there. I usually go there, and I have spoke there a few times, but so rubbing shoulders with those kind of people. But then even within your church, I am very blessed to be really close to pastor and spend a lot of time with him, and that's inspiring.
And so kind of with that, the caveat with it, and this is what I wanted to talk about a little bit, is I remember there's a saying, if you want to get something accomplished, find somebody that's busy. And it's because basically on the flip side, if somebody's not busy, there's a reason why. Yeah. They can't do anything. And so I thought about that with reputation, is I want to be the kind of person that somebody knows, my pastor or even other people know, that if you get Brother Gabe to do it, it's going to be done extremely well.
Oh, yeah.
And so we have people like that. Even within our Sunday school, we have I talk about it all the time, but we have a roster of 30 plus people.
Right.
Out of those 30 people, there are people that I know that whether it's doing an acting job, or if it's just like, man, I need them to straighten up Sunday school before because we have time, or I need them to clean up, I need them to set up some music, whatever. I just know that it's going to be done well. It's going to be done excellent. Unfortunately, there's a flip side to that. There are some people that I know, and I don't write them off because I'm hoping they'll reach their potential one day. But there's some people that I know that if I have them do it, I'm going to have to come behind them.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to have to hold their hand, or they're going to have so many questions and be needy because they just really want the attention more than they want to do the job.
Yeah.
And so when that excellence being contagious, when I see it from pastor, what happens is, like, when I'm sick, I think of his example. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to power through this.
Yeah.
Or
when you fall off a ladder and almost break your shoulder.
Yeah.
You don't call it a day right away. You suffer through until you just absolutely can't bear it anymymore.
Yeah.
This actually happened, folks. And Brother Gabe is
you go do
tough as nails.
You go do a junior camp in a sling or in a brace.
Just pushing through.
But yeah, so I think, I guess, in all of that, like our third point is consistency compounds impact.
Yeah.
So being consistent in that example, and so when like I said, when I'm sick, I see my example and as pastor, and I push through it. The other thing is, one more example is, I try to think, what would pastor do, or what would he want done?
Yeah.
And then there's so many things that I don't have to run to him and say, hey, we had a situation just the other day where we had, in our sound department, we had it was just like bang, bang, bang. There was people sick and people couldn't do this, couldn't do that. You're one of those people, and you were scheduled to do 2 other things already. So I just did a group text, and I didn't even reach out to pastor. Yeah. I just did a group text and said, hey, we need some help. And so, and people stepped up and it happened, and we ran into issues, but we made it happen.
We got it figured out.
Yeah. And so that's an example of just saying, you know what, because it was early Sunday morning when I got the news that we were in this predicament. Yeah. And so I was like, pastor's trying to get ready for service. Yeah. And so, I can tell him about it afterward, but this is what he would want done. It's like, we got to make it happen.
Yeah, and that consistency is so critical. And a little bit on your previous point, and you talk about those folks you can call on that are consistent all the time and consistently do things well. Mm-hmm. It's great. But those that don't, we never want to lower the standard down. We always want to try to bring them up to the standard and try to elevate them. And so, like you said, sometimes you will have to go behind them, but the best thing you can do is just continue to train them and to continue to push them. Say, hey, this is how we want to try to do things. Don't be like, oh, we're going to compromise and make things not as good.
I do have a hard time, not with the compromise part, but I do have a hard time with that, like delegating something, like, I'll just do it myself. You know?
And Brother Gabe does things so well so often, so it is hard, when you have these certain things you're so good at, to let somebody else do it, knowing it's like, okay, they're not going to do it like I want, but also they're not going to do it as good. I'm not trying to be arrogant. It's just the truth.
Right.
Because I'm so experienced at this stuff, and so it is tough. And But the consistency is key, and so it's conveying to that person because they're going to probably ask you like, "What's the difference? Like, how can I be better, or how can I get to where the standard actually is?" And then you can convey to them it's about consistency.
Yeah.
Even if in the beginning you're not doing as well, or so we'll just take a Bible reading for example. Pastor's pushing that this year about us all reading through the Bible in a year. Even if it's like the first day is like I only read one verse. Well, that doesn't mean the next day you just say, I might as well give up because I can't read the Bible in a year if I'm only reading one verse. We're just going to continue to be consistent every single day, and eventually becomes where you're getting more and more done, and then you develop good habits. I mean, I don't know, I can't think of it off the top of my head about how long it takes to develop a habit, but it takes a while.
Yeah, there's a few different thoughts. It generally is about like 30 times, whether that's days or whatever it is. But I think, and the other thing is if you're not consistent, that question, like you talked about, is how can I get to the higher level, is never asked because you're not there. You haven't been consistent, so you're not modeling that example. The other thing is, I think, so when you are consistent, and these words I'm using these interchangeably. When you are excellent, consistently excellent in everything that you do, from the cleaning toilets.
You don't be consistently bad.
Right, yeah, which some people are, But it sets, for one thing, it gives you a reputation, and then it creates momentum.
Right.
You do these small things, and they compound over time. These things compound, and they snowball, and you become, excellent. There's in his book, Good to Great, Jim Collins talks about getting the right people on the bus. And I don't know if I can articulate the whole premise exactly, but he talks about I think he talked about getting, then you get the right people in the right seat, or whatever, and that's more like position. But first, you're just getting the right people on the bus. And I hopefully don't butcher the premise that he gave in that book, but what I think of is there are some people that and it goes back to this reputation thing and the excellence, that okay, if we get them on the bus, it doesn't matter if we're mopping floors, it doesn't matter if we're preaching, it doesn't matter if they're going to be awesome. They're going to be great to have on the bus because they're going to give it their all. They're going to be excellent, and that's the kind of person I want to be. And
that's the thing about consistency in things is like you will eventually be asked to do things that maybe are not even normally in your scope, but because people know they can count on you, they're like, maybe I'll just ask. So a good example is, now I'll be coming up on 5 years ago, got married, and I had this idea for our wedding to do a slideshow with a song for my wife. Unbeknownst to her, and so who I went to was Brother Gabe.
I remember this.
I don't know, you might, I'm sure you've done that kind of stuff before, but not something that people probably go to you very often asking you to do, but I just like, who can I count on, one, to get it done, because that's the big thing, is I can't not have this done, and two, get it done quickly and have it done well. And I was like, here you go, Brother Gabe, do you think you can handle that? And he's like, probably, and it turned out great. I mean, I
still have that video.
Yeah, I saw the video on my phone too. We just looked at it the other day, but that's what's going to happen. And so when you're doing things consistently with excellence, you should expect, how you'll know that is because people start to ask you to do other kinds of stuff that aren't normally in your wheelhouse.
Like you said, behind your scope, yes.
And the best thing you can just say every time is yes. And just, hey, I'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out, especially if it's your pastor. If it's your pastor or your church leadership. And, you could be honest and say, I don't know how to do that, but I'll do it if you need me to. Yeah, and that's kind of the story of my life in ministry is I'm always outside of my comfort zone. And that has, wherever I am at in ministry, that's how I've gotten there. Is from just being always stepping outside of the comfort zone. All right, so number 4 is details reveal character. And this kind of, we already talked about this a little bit, but how we handle small responsibilities reveals our true character and our commitment to ministry. And so I think that, like, I remember a long time ago, pastor asked me to teach a Bible study to a particular family, and and about 50% of it was bilingual, was Spanish. And so it was way outside of my comfort zone. But I treated it, I do a lot of youth stuff, so I kind of treated it like that. I kept it fairly short. It was about 30 minutes, and man, it like grew. Well, it started out with, I think, 5 people, and it grew, I don't know, I think it was about 30 people or something like that. And people were showing up, and it was funny because I would be telling, like, I use stories a lot. I love stories, so I tell stories. And so I'd use stories, and even in the Bible stories, I would tell about, like, I can't remember. I told this one story. Oh, man. I don't remember now, but it might have been Shamgar or something, but it was just like this brutal fight, and and they were translating, and a couple of the Mexican guys they loved it. They were like talking to each other, nudging each other, and talking in Spanish, like, yeah. So funny. It was funny. But anyway, I stepped outside of my comfort zone, and I was trying to, kind of fulfill those details, making sure that every detail mattered. I would meet with a young gentleman for my handout and make sure that I did Google Translate back then, and make sure that he would, look at it and catch my mistakes and fix it beforehand. And that took time, but it was details, and they mattered to me.
Yeah. Yeah. My note that I had down for this was, if you're not willing to do those things behind the scenes, if you're always just wanting to be the one out in the spotlight, that's not the kind of attitude that's going to get you to the places that God wants to take you. You have to be willing to do all the little things to be given the big things, like I kind of said earlier. Willing to do backstage, or like we'll use Sunday school as an example. Be willing to maybe run QLab or the sound system for us, or maybe do costumes or whatever. I mean, or even if it's some random person say, hey, will you buy snack for Sunday school? Maybe they're not even in Sunday school at the time, but you're like, I just want to see if I can count on this person. And then that's how they get their foot in the door. I mean, just little stuff like that. If you're not willing to do those little things, you have no business being.
Yeah. Well, something you said earlier, I thought of too, is you said that, God gives us these small things as like a test. I think this works, and it might be through God or God through the pastor or through somebody. But I know sometimes I do things. I'll ask people things. And part of it's that I need it done, but part of it's just to see. Yeah. And I have discovered a lot. I've discovered talent that way. Like, oh, wow, this person is really talented. Or this person, man, they're excellent. They do this. And I've discovered the other way. I've discovered, like, I've had people ask me, like when we're building a set, hey, do you need help? I would like to do thus and such. And they'll even have this idea. And I know from experience that sometimes I'll just be like, nah, because it's going to be too much. But other times I'll be like, okay, that's a cool idea, and I'd like that, but here's how that has to happen. Is you have to do it. I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to be involved at all. And a lot of times when I present it that way, it doesn't get done at all. Yeah. Because I think sometimes these people, I don't think it's nefarious, but I think sometimes they're seeking the attention more than they really, and it's not even, I don't know that it's a conscious thought. But really quick, in tandem with that, lifestyle. So being willing to be backstage and all those things, like you said. I have been around people sometimes where we do prep work for something that doesn't get used. Yeah. And they can get so frustrated. But I have done that so many times. Yeah. It's a lifestyle. I know that you have to be over-prepared. I know this in work. You have to be over-prepared. And, I lead a lot of meetings in work with kind of high-profile people. So I have to be ready. And sometimes I'll have 2 pages of notes that don't ever get touched. I never use them. But I have them there. Right. And it makes me better for it.
Oh, for sure.
Just recently we came up here, got a ping pong table, and we were doing a youth event down at the gym. got a ping pong table. It's kind of a hassle to carry that thing and get it down the stairs and all the stuff, load it into a truck and get it all there. We never used it because of the way the night went. It was a filler game anyway, and we never used it. And we had to come back and carry it up the stairs, put it all back at 11 o'clock at night. But the guys that helped me, Kendall and Miles, no problem, no issue at all, and because we know that there's prep that has to go. So anyway, it just has to be a lifestyle, and you don't get disappointed when you do that work.
Yeah, I've heard so many times when in podcasts and different things when they talk to men that preach or evangelize and like, how did how did it happen? How did you feel God call you? And they all talk similar stories about feeling this nudge by God. But then when they ask other men about it, the first thing those men would ask them, and then that they say that they also would tell or ask other people when they say the same things to them as well, is like, are you teaching a Bible study? So before you ever have a pulpit ministry, you always have a Bible study first. And so the same could be said for like kids ministry. It's like, okay, you want to be in Sunday school. Well, what about working on the bus?
Yeah.
What about going out and maybe knocking doors and getting kids to come to Sunday school? Maybe that's the thing that gets you in to being involved in the actual physical Sunday school itself.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I told the story before, and I'm going to call out a name, but Skylin, so she's in Sunday school, and Skylin's far from perfect. She got all kinds of faults. In fact, let's name them. No, I'm just kidding.
It would take too long. Night, brother. Just kidding.
But no, so Skylin wanted to be in when she was younger. This has been a few years ago. She wanted to be in. She would ask me, all the time, when can I be staff? When can I be staff? The turning point, and I took a picture of her and I sent it to her mom. The turning point was seeing her in the altar,
in a regular service.
In a regular service, praying praying hard with kids.
Yep.
That was the turning point for me. I was like, okay, she can do that. She can be in Sunday school. That's makes all the difference doing that.
Yeah. It's if you're really desiring a ministry, whether it be in Sunday school or whatever it is, just show those people that are in those positions of responsibility over that, whether it be, like yourself over kids ministry, over Pastor Burgess, if you feel like you want to preach, show them that you can be trusted with little things without even maybe them telling you. It's like, I'm just going to do this. Like, I'm going to ask to be involved in bus ministry for the kids, or I'm going to start coming in randomly and like cleaning up at the church without being asked or whatever. Or even maybe if you do want to say, hey, what are some things I can do to help out around here? Do you guys need any help setting up Sunday school? Or do you guys need help cleaning up? Or at church, ask Pastor, hey, is there anything I can do to help out around here? And just, you want to get to yourself to a position where you're indispensable and show them that you can be trusted with these things. And like you said, with Skylin as an example, or we could go through a list of people that they didn't start off way up here. They were starting to do little things down here, and it's like, okay, that person can be trusted and develops, and they can be trusted with the little things. Let's put them in these other places and positions.
Yeah, it's like the classic story of the person that wants a job at a place and there's no openings, and so they pick up a broom and start sweeping every day, and then pretty soon, who's the guy? There's a motivational speaker, Les Brown. An incredible story about somebody could look it up on YouTube or whatever, but Les Brown tells an incredible story as he worked at a radio station. First of all, he went there every single day asking for a job, and it's really funny. He says, like, you were here yesterday. We didn't have any openings yesterday. And he's like, well, I don't know. I didn't know if maybe somebody died or, He's like, no, nobody died. And then he said, finally, it was like, go get me a cup of coffee. Yes, sir, he said. But anyway, so he was there. And then what happened is somebody got drunk on the radio, one of the personalities. And they were like, they had to shut him down. But it's a radio show. You're live. And so they told him to go in and fill in, and so he did. He was ready and everything. But anyway, that's that classic example of the person that starts out as a janitor, maybe unofficial, but they're just helping and they're solving problems, and Okay, well, we are at our time, so just to recap a little bit, extraordinary. I can never say it the first time. Extraordinary results are built on small tasks done with excellence. those big, huge moments are built on just small things.
The small moments are more often. The big moments are few and far between. So how can you be trusted with those small moments?
Yeah, and if we can, as a lifestyle, take joy in those small things, we'll be so much more satisfied. Because, like you said, those big ones are few and far between.
Yeah.
And then excellence. Number 2 is excellence is contagious.
Yep.
If we model that excellence, other people will want to do it.
And if you want to be excellent in something, surround yourself with excellent
with those people.
Yep.
Exactly. Consistency compounds impact, and that's again that compound effect that we talk about so much. If you're consistently doing things excellent, it's going for your own ministry, for your own self. It's going to compound and spread, and you'll be doing things outside of your scope, and you will elevate, but also all of the things that you're touching elevates.
Yeah. I think that's the area that humans will struggle with the most is the consistency.
Yeah.
Just being consistent.
It's not easy.
No.
Details reveal character. And so that's there's a book, and I'm not bashing it because it's actually a good book, but it says don't sweat the small stuff. And I think the tagline is it's all small stuff. It's a good book and broad strokes and all of that thing, but details do matter.
Yeah, how you handle those little situations says a lot about who you are.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, that's a wrap.
All right.